Hello, everybody. Movie reviewer next door here, and this is a first for the channel. I have someone to interview. So here I have Joshua Cherof.
Hi,
Uh, would
everybody.
you would you please tell everyone what your job is?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Josh. I'm a production assistant on union productions mostly, and do a handful of, if not everything else, on non-union productions in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hmm. Would you like to
Um,
tell everybody how you got into that?
yeah, sure. Yeah, real quick. I was a theater and film major at Florida State University. I wanted to be an actor, so I moved to New York after college, and that didn't really work too well. After a while, so I moved to LA and was there a long time, and that didn't really take me anywhere or get going. And then so I came back home here to Atlanta, where it was getting really busy. In the early 2010s, it was just it was really busy. Did some stuff, made a little money, nothing big. Didn't just, kind of almost to the working actor level, but still having to do other jobs. And I just got burnt out. So I got into being a PA. I got into set production, um, just through people I knew from being an actor and fellow actors. Um, you start as a PA, a set PA, no matter what you want to do, and that's just the bottom of the rung, the bottom rung on the ladder. I mean, you're the gopher, you're the communicator, you're the missing link. You tell people where everything is.
Yeah.
You know you kind of you're part of the AD team, the assistant directing team, and so the AD's job is to make the day happen, and our job is to make them make the day happen. Um, so there's and you get in and you're just a set PA. You're probably just doing lockups. They put you on a corner somewhere where you can't be seen on camera, and they say don't let anyone come past you. When we say rolling,
Mm.
you lock up the streets, the corners, sidewalks. You're just a lockup PA kind of, and then you get into like the different degrees of PAing. There's different like there's different jobs. Walkie PA, background PA, first team PA, base camp PA, paperwork PA, and then the helpers. There's always more than one person in one of those divisions. Just depends on the size of the project and how many actors are in it. But because first team runs the actors and they take care of them, it's literally babysitting adults. You just tell them where to go and what to put on and when they can eat when they're done, and then go home. You're just a substitute teacher basically for them. And then background PAs, make sure all the background are ready to rock. Help the second AD do all that during the day because that's that person's job. Continuity with background and doing all the background setting is a second AD's primary job on set. So you work with them, making sure all 200 or 400 or 20 or 12 or whatever the number is doing what they need to do. Walkie PAs does everything. I mean, you do everything. We all do everything, though. A PA is a PA. Um, so, except the key PA, the key set PA is kind of like, the manager of the PAs because with, um, you're always with whoever the first AD isn't with.
Hmm.
If the first AD is not with the director, you're the key set PA, you're with the director. If there's not another AD on set, there's a lot of ADs nowadays, and there's a lot of them on sets now because there's so many. It's weird to have like three ADs on a show or four. It's weird. I've noticed that recently. But anyway, the key set PA just kind of, like is the extra hands to the AD on set to make sure the lockups are in place, to make sure everyone knows what we're doing. Just kind of just
So
it
they
was
have a
it,
hand in like stunts or like.
no, not technically. I mean, we're
Oh,
there. All the crew's there, but we they practice forever to make sure they can do it in one or two takes, and get it right. We're there, we see it, but we're never involved,
okay.
except when it's like you're on. I did a show called Blind Spot,
Hmm.
um, girl tattoos,
Jamie
FBI.
Alexander.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the FBI, and they save the world every week from terrorists. Um, I did that. I did the season 3 of that, and I was with the first team, which are the actors. So sometimes actors would come in just to rehearse. So my job for half that day was just to hang out while they rehearsed for 4 or 5 hours, you know?
Hmm.
Do I see it all? No. Do I get to do anything with them? No. But you get to know the stunt guys pretty well because they come in a lot and sometimes they don't work, you know? Uh,
That's always nice.
yeah, you get paid, but you never work. The guy that was the dude on Blind Spot, Sully is his real name. I forget the character's name. He loved doing his own stunts. So that poor stunt guy came in, practiced and rehearsed and got ready and he had to put a fake beard on. Uh, and never ever hardly ever got to work because Sully'd be like, I'll do it again. I'll do it. I want to do it. I want to do it. And they're like, fine. I can't really say no. Um, but yeah, so the PAs do all that where the first one's in, where the last one's out. You always make overtime because you're always there over 12, if not 14, 15 hours because everyone else, especially with union rules and IATSE, depending on the on the locals, that's and Teamsters, they all have their rules. PAs don't. We're not unionized, so we're always, like I said, the first one's in, last one's out, hustling, kind of doing everything. Then there are location PAs. Locations department is different than the AD department, but they all work closely together. And then certain other, departments will have a PA possibly if production allows them to have like a camera PA to learn some stuff, or a props PA, a costumes PA, but you don't see it a lot. It's mostly just the AD department that needs them.
So you said that with Cosmic Sin it was something different. Uh, would you care to explain how that production went?
That production went. It was a whirlwind for many many reasons.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't want to speak ill of anybody, but it was very poorly organized from the
Hmm.
top down, and it felt more like a rushed vanity project um, for the producer and the writer director, which I can't quote the actual story about what went down with their first movie together. And I don't know. I don't want to, I mean, and you can read things on the internet and who knows if they're true. And I'm not going to be a person to add to that if I know it's not. And
Yeah.
don't really feel like I would have permission to say anyway. But it didn't feel very cohesive. It felt very rushed. It felt very, it was rushed. I mean, we shot that movie in 10 days. Yeah, all in one location, and it was just miserable weather in the early spring, um, and it was just it was just a lot of people that had very above the line positions, mostly all of them except for the cinematographer, um, and like one of the producers. Everyone else above the line, it was like their first time doing it.
Mm.
It was the first time production coordinator, first time uh, second AD, first time second AD. Um, I don't even think he's credited, but Michael Bennett Smith, yeah, he came in to save us, and he did because our other AD did not know what he was doing. He'd never done it, and it's very different from doing commercials and industrials, which he and his team that he brought in had been doing, and that's what they do. It's very, very different making a film, whether it's union or not. It's just a different beast, kind of. And he was not ready for it, especially a union project where it all has to be, handled correctly. Um, but everyone was super nice. It was just we were going to make a sci-fi action movie with Bruce Willis in like 10 days, like in a week and a half. That's not possible.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially
and
when you only have them for like 1 or 2 days. So.
yeah, so that's the other thing. It's like that's when I found out the whole shtick, the whole thing. Like if you have $2 million, you get them for 2 days.
Hmm.
That's kind of like that's it. Um, and you see all these movies with him and other actors, especially like action star actors doing all these, straight to, they say they're straight to theaters or they're in theaters, but they're not in theaters. They're just out streaming, but
Hmm.
like just crank them out like a dozen a year, and they're
Yeah.
barely in them. And, I understand why. And I don't hate them for doing it. It's giving people jobs. People are working. They're learning the ropes too. A lot of people on that crew, um, like the not the props people. They were cool. They were pretty seasoned. Electric Grip. Those were like regular kind of locals. It's Atlanta, so and it's the film industry, which is huge, but this industry is still like it's all tight. It's all about who you know, and it's a very small circle. And Atlanta is smaller than LA and New York, so it's a small circle. But the special effects costumers, so like all the spacesuits and the demon creature dude at the end, the
Yeah.
Skeletor, Lord of the Rings guy, the suits, the guns, um, the armor, they did all that. And it was a very small group, and they're like super local to Georgia, to Atlanta, and this was like their first feature. And the guy in charge, his name was Josh, the head of their group, also was like wearing that demon suit and was doing some stunt stuff, where they didn't see his face. They were really cool. They were really nice, and they were, green, to like it's very intricate because it's sci-fi space stuff. B, you've got like a week to make it, and then we like have like 10 days to shoot it.
Yeah.
And so it was, and there was small crews. All the crews were pretty small because it's a small film and it was a short film, like a short time to make film. So it was crazy, but I realized, I mean, I was keying it, and I had great PAs, but they were pretty green. And one of our ADs was just so inept that we had to get another guy on, and then we were working and rolling. But there were a lot of unsafe things at the location. A lot of things that could have been dealt better and planned better, and and that's my opinion as far as my experience on other sets.
Yeah.
Not to say anything was like grossly negligent, nothing that I would report to OSHA or anyone. I mean, this isn't like I could call and this is another thing when you do these tier one, tier two movies, or I'm sorry, like I forget which way it goes, but when you do like these, $5 million movies, these lower budget, um, right to streaming kind of, right to video, as I used to say, because I'm an 80s kid. When you get those, what am I trying to say without sounding negative?
No, it's fine. Just let it
It,
out.
well, no, it's just like, what was I saying? It's like, it's just, I lost my train of thought. Sorry, edit that out. No, a lot of stuff was left on people's shoulders that shouldn't have been. It just from the top down, like they only have so much money, and if they don't really know what they're doing with it, it's really hard to
Hmm.
to to get everything you want in such a short time because
They're just trying
and
to get it out there.
yeah, and director writer kept changing the script like every night. Would come back with the scenes we were going to do that day rewritten, and the actors, a lot of them were not, super skilled at acting like off book yet. A couple of them were
Hmm.
like, I'm saying not Frank Grillo or Bruce, who didn't really have many lines anyway, but or like any of the other kind of actors. But some of them were like more like social icon or athletic people. I forget the name of the girl. She's not a wrestler, but something like that, and she's like a social media
Oh
person.
yeah.
Not like a trained actor kind of thing. So that was difficult for some of the people, and it's also difficult for the stunt team when you change stuff because they've been practicing and special effects has been setting up, and then you want more, effects. You want more atmosphere in certain ways that they really couldn't control because of the location. Just
Hmm.
lots of normal hiccups, but a lot of big things that should have never come to pass. Lots of tension between some of the people on set, and just things that could have been easily avoided if they were just planned a little better. And I don't know, just not such a mad dash to get it done. Like
Hmm.
2.5 weeks would have been a much better product.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I mean, like Bruce Willis's photo double. It's uncanny. It's uncanny. I mean, you would just double take every day, being like, no,
Hmm.
Bruce has already done his stuff. He looks just like him. So every shot in that movie that is not his face, even the profile, if it's not his face.
Yeah.
It's Kyle. It's not his photo double who just kind of follows him around on these movies, especially the ones in the South, because a
Yeah,
lot of
that's
these.
what I've heard. Like they'll try to like get all the shots that they need his face, like especially dialogue scenes, they'll try to do that. And if they'll try to like shoot him with him on set
Oh yeah, yeah. We
and
just
if they don't get any, they'll just do ADR. But
Well, they're going to do ADR anyway for any shot that's like the back of his head or in a helmet that you can't see his face.
mhm,
They're already going to do ADR. He knows that. He's fine with that because these movies are like an hour and 15 minutes. They're not, and he doesn't have much dialogue anyway because he's not in the movie much. So his ADR doesn't take long to do. Um, but I don't even think he does it on set or on location. Probably he probably does it at home or back in LA or something. Goes into a studio there. Um,
well,
but yeah, he'll show up, he'll get ready, and he's on standby. And we put a PA on him just to be on Bruce when Bruce was there, the Bruce PA. And um, you know, he was ready to rock. He was always just kind of like we were never waiting on him for anything. He was ready to go, and they changed stuff, and he didn't really seem to care. I mean, not to go into all the gossip and stuff, he did just come out and declare his family did that he's got this, dementia situation, which is really sad. But like
yeah, it's always
before
sad
that,
to ask. Yeah,
well, yeah, I mean, like before that, I mean, that just came out last week, right? Before that, for like the past couple of years, and him cranking out all these movies, we're saying, oh, we can see his earwig. He can't remember his lines. And he's sick or something, and
yeah,
maybe some of that was the onset of, the beginning of what is now the doctors can, define as this type of condition. But there was also the rumor always, that like, well, no, he wears the earwig because when he was shooting Die Hard, it was just so much, gunfire and so many nights of it that like one of his ears, like he just can't hear and one of his ears very well.
yeah,
So he wears the earwig to hear the other actors' lines clearer, because
hmm,
they're all mic'd, and he can get his lines fed to him if he can't hear, what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like those are the two rumors. I don't know which is real. It doesn't really matter in my opinion, but it's kind of like any actor that you grew up with and you like him for what you like about him, and you remember the golden years, so you remember the good stuff more than
Yeah.
you know,
All in all,
you know.
when and if he stopped acting, no one's gonna really remember these films that he did for like a
No,
couple days. They're gonna remember Die Hard. They're gonna remember Fifth Element,
Pulp
like
Fiction, and
Pulp Fiction.
um, yeah. I mean, he's done a lot of good stuff. He had a good run with Disney for a while when he was like under contract with them, doing like these kind of more. The Kid was a pretty like good family heartwarming movie. Not like silly comedies, but he did, I mean, Death Becomes Her. That's a great movie. He's got a great track record. He should not feel bad. I mean, and if I was him, I'd be doing the same thing, just making money for my grandkids, you know, so that they can go whatever college they want to, and it costs 3 times as much as it does now. But he was a gentleman. He was nice. He wasn't standoffish. He wasn't, I mean, he knew that it wasn't like, a big, huge budget movie. It wasn't Marvel. It wasn't, Netflix or Warner Brothers. It was whatever whatever the production company was named. And so of course he had a nice trailer, and but he was fine. He was cool. He was down, to like just hang. You know, not super chatty, but not
Hmm.
standoffish.
Yeah.
So it was cool. I mean, I didn't ask for like a photo with him. I was just like, you know, just a cool experience. Um, Despite whatever the outcome of the project is, it's just cool, to
Hmm.
be the set was cool to play with too. It was just fun to be there because it was like really brings out your like inner sci-fi geek kid, which I have a huge one in here. So it was fun. That was the fun part, but it was so hectic trying to get everything at everywhere it needs to be and all the changes. I was in a golf cart just flying around this abandoned, decrepit fiber optics warehouse manufacturer that every movie in Atlanta shoots at, and we were just in the grungiest, grimiest part of it. And but they made it look nice with the neon lights and this, and we used an abandoned shed as the bar in the beginning of the movie. That was just an abandoned shed in their parking lot that we just used. We just dressed it and did it. It felt like we were shooting, guerrilla style. It didn't feel like we were allowed to be there. But that's just how that place feels because it's just so weird and old and gross.
Yeah.
Um, um, but that's really what I mean by different. They're usually not even like independent films I've worked on are still, that one more tier up with more money and more time. And and not so ambitious with with special effects, and practical effects and those props and suits and all that stuff. I mean, I guess they did a lot of CG work for the film, but none of it was really I mean, plate shots were it. We didn't use a green screen for, I don't think, really anything.
Only parts I can think of that would, from what I remember of it, would be the scenes where you see them flying through space.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
I think,
about it.
but we didn't strap them up to a green screen to do that. So I think they just, I don't know.
Yeah, to just to me as someone who like just recreationally watches films, it came off as, well, I hate to say unfinished, but it kind of felt like good visual effects artists definitely working on a deadline.
It
If
was totally an unfinished. I mean, unfinished in the sense that, I mean, the director was never finished with his story, really. They always wanted to keep doing more and more and more, but the budget only goes so far, you know.
Mhm.
The money guy eventually has to say no, stop changing and stop adding. So yeah, you could tell that they were not he was not ideally finished with his story, and it was I think supposedly the sequel to that other Bruce Willis science space sci-fi.
Breach.
Yeah, this was I think supposed to be the sequel, but then that fell through. But so they made this anyway,
Hmm.
and the unofficial sequel where they don't, I guess, use Bruce's character as much. I don't know because I didn't see the other one, but
Well,
um, yeah, it does. I mean, it does not feel and I hate to say it, but a lot of these kinds of movies, they they never feel finished. They never feel it feels like the beta version of
hmm,
the movie they want to make. It feels like your tester. You know, um, so I mean, in this day and age where you can just stream everything and watch everything all at once, all the time, I guess it's kind of like the 80s is back, like with there's production companies in the 80s that would just churn out movies. The more we make, the more we sell VHS, the more they rent them, the more, we make. Um, and like a lot of the best bad movies come out of those, you know, come out of those situations. So, it might be one of the cases where in 15 years, my kids will be watching these straight to, streaming, lower budget action movies being like, these are so bad, they're good. Like
yeah,
this is so bad, it's amusing. Like me with bad 70s and 80s movies. I'm like, I love them. I love
hmm,
them. The worse, the better. And or the more if I can't understand it, it's mind boggling. It doesn't make sense, the better. So maybe they'll be in a certain, they'll be a certain way where they can be like, this is awful and entertaining. And that would make me proud. We all work in this industry as freelancers, so you kind of just jump from show to show, you go from gig to gig and you don't always work on things you like or want to watch.
hmm,
And you just never, and sometimes it's just a job and sometimes you're super excited, it's something you're really into and it's still just kind of the same job, or it might be worse than you expected. You just never know because it's a people industry, you know. It's all
yeah,
about it's all the personalities on set for 14 hours every day, that make it work or don't work. And
yeah.
we made that work. We made that work despite the hurdles. But like you said, I mean, if they had more money, they would have made it a longer movie. They would have done it differently, I'm sure,
Yeah.
as is a lot of these action movies with Liam Neeson and Bruce Willis, and you know,
Yeah,
that
well, something I noticed specifically with Cosmic Sin, because these others, like around the same time, you had like First Kill, which was Hayden Christensen and Bruce Willis, and then you had
a couple.
uh oh,
No, I'm here.
and you had,
Oh.
is that a Star Wars mug or something?
Yeah, kind of. It says, "May the North be with you." It's from Alaska
I like it.
with the guys and their antlers. Yeah,
But yeah, like most of these movies, it'll be like, okay, the person who's the actual star, and then Bruce Willis, get people to come
Mhm.
in for Bruce Willis.
Right.
For this, for specifically Cosmic Sin, it's like Frank Grillo.
Yeah.
And something I noticed with this one specifically, Frank Grillo didn't seem to be in it that much.
He's not.
Like, cause he like disappears like after the space scene, he just like disappears for a good like 30 minutes. And
Yeah.
and I was
Yeah.
so confused by that. And it
Uh,
like focused more on like uh Lachlan Monroe, Costas, or other actors. Like it it just seemed really.
yeah. Yeah. It did. I think that had to do a lot with the changing of the script constantly and the fact that I don't think it was ever really finished.
Hmm.
Like they had all these ideas. They had they had the core idea. They had these certain, pieces they wanted to do. The thread line between them all just never, I don't think, came together.
Hmm.
And I know, I don't know for a fact, but Frank Grillo is now at that status too, where he's going to have a certain amount, and only work a certain amount of days, kind of thing too. I think, um, or he's, like the movies like this also, like you get those actors in the window too. Like if he's going to be in a Marvel movie in Atlanta for 3 months, he can do this real quick before
Yeah,
or in between.
like in the
They're all
dead time.
do that. So you never know unless you talk to the actor, which I
Hmm.
did not talk to Frank. Uh, I mean, good morning, sir. Hey, yeah, yeah, yes, and no, that's no, we're doing this again, going again. Like just the normal set chit chat, but I never like talked to him. He was kind of scary to me. He was intimidating, but
Yeah,
everybody else was super cool. Uh, I mean, he wasn't not cool. I just was not. I don't
yeah.
know. Um, but like I could not let the opportunity go by to not at least talk to Bruce Willis.
Hmm.
You know, not about the shot or the not about work. We talked about Georgia for a minute, and it was cool. It was nice. It's a nice memory. Um, but yeah, we finished that movie. I probably worked a 19-hour day, an overnight shoot on a Thursday, right? So we shoot because we always shot at night. So we shoot all night, and then we have to wrap everything up and get everything closed up and everything accounted for and everything ready for. We did everything on
Yeah.
this show. There was no other. I mean, anyway. So we were all working all night. We're all finding that I'm the key, so I'm the last one out with everything locked up and everyone's times turned in and everything finally returned because there's no wrap out days. We're not like a network television show that season's wrapped, but people still work for a week to take down sets and get costumes together. And this was like we had to get out of there by the time the place was technically open on Friday or whatever. So we worked, shot in the night, worked all through the night. I got home at like maybe 8, 9 in the morning on that Friday, and I slept all day. And then
Hmm.
I went out with a friend to get dinner because I was up, I'd slept all day. I was on the night schedule, and we were getting dinner. And we were like, man, this place, it's a Friday night, and this place is like this is empty. It's never this empty. I wonder what's going on. Is there something going on? I was like, I don't know. I don't even know what day it is. So go home, wake up the next morning, Saturday, and I go to the grocery store right around the corner, and it's like freaking crazy. And everyone's like lines out the freaking front, and everyone's buying toilet paper and water and paper towels. And I was like, what is going on? We're not going to have a hurricane or a
Yeah.
tornado. What is going on? I go back home and I turn on TV, and of course, it's like shut down. So I didn't even see it coming. I knew COVID was out there. I knew people were, like we were. I was working on one of the Marvel shows, and we were all getting kind of worried about it, like what are we going to do? But for like 2 weeks, I was working nonstop on this film. I didn't even watch the news, or know what was going on. It was just go to bed, work, get up, shower, go back, you know. And so I get home, I turn the TV on, and it's like we are shut down. We have shut down America because of COVID. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna cuss, but oh, freaking what? So
Yeah.
I was like, well, if the world ends, that's the last thing I did was Cosmic Sin. That was the last movie I worked on, which I am laughing ironically at. Um, yeah, so that was a good way to end that. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna sit here now and rest after 2 weeks of 18-hour days, all nighters. But at the time it seemed really fun, and you don't always know the story of a show you're working on when you're in production, especially if you're not the head of the department or above the line people. Obviously, I mean, you'll get scripts and you'll get sides every day, but unless you're staffed and unless like they really feel you need it, or unless you ask, you're not always going to get the full script, right?
Hmm.
So on a lot of sets, you piece it together yourself. You're like, sometimes I like don't want to know. I like rather make up my own movie while I'm on set, and then when I watch it, I'm like, oh, I was completely wrong, or it was a completely different storyline because I only get the sides every day. I don't have the through line so much. You just never know, because you know what the behind the camera looks like. You know what everyone looks like in their positions. If you're exterior or interior. Like it just becomes another day at the office, whether you're on set, on stage, or you're on location. Um, I mean, I highly recommend anyone that wants to get into any aspect of production. I don't know if you should take those um, um, classes that they offer. They offer like those little weekend kind of like learn how to be a set PA. Just find someone that's doing it and ask them. Just say I'm available if you need help or when you need additional help, and then they'll bring you on. Um, that's how everyone starts. It's just you gotta know somebody. So if anyone's in Atlanta, let me know. I'll pass.
Sorry, everyone, for the cut. I only have the free version of Zoom, so we'll just continue from there. So, saw that you worked on Keeping Up with the Joneses. How'd that go?
Well, I didn't. That was my first union gig here in Atlanta. After doing a bunch of like indie stuff and non-union like industrials, not a bunch, but some, enough to make a resume. Um, but I was an office PA on that, and it was just for the reshoots.
Oh,
So I never saw the cast or the sets. I only saw the office at um, it used to be called Lakewood Amphitheater, big amphitheater concert, venue, just outside of the city of Atlanta. And it's not called that anymore, but right next to it were all these like this big old abandoned kind of like warehouses, and they turned that into a studio. Screen Gems turned that into studios, and it's kind of like in Atlanta, you just rent offices through that other studios have without having productions in them. You're coming in and you have a production, you can just like rent that floor. Um, so I was only there for, like the month doing reshoots. It was very boring, but it was interesting to that's a good job if you want to get into being a producer or like you like the office work. If you like office work, but you want to work in film, try and become an office PA because you're the one that goes to UPS and goes to Kroger or wherever your supermarket is to stock their fridges and their kitchen. You get the lunches, you do all that gopher work, but you're also hanging out with the heads. The only time that everyone's there is the only people that have offices are like the heads of departments. So you're hanging out with the production coordinator and the assistant production coordinator and the travel coordinator, and you're hanging out with the UPM. The director has an office, the writer has an office. They're in there, like especially when your stage is right next to the office if it's in the same building. It's like it's a great way to meet people and stuff. So I've run into some people that I met like me, like PAs in the office pool of that show, and they're now like running the office of big movies. But no, I mean, we just had to order weird stuff, because I did these rewrites for like to go drink snake blood or snake something, and we had to go get the snake, and we had to make that they had to make that whole set like in a couple of days. And John Hamm was shooting Baby Driver in Atlanta at the same time, so that was difficult to get him. Like they had to get him a wig because of his haircut from Baby Driver, but to look like he did in this movie, which is like the normal John Hamm. So they had to get like a $5,000 wig
jeez.
for him just for reshoots. I like I said, yeah, like when you're in the office, you don't get much interaction with the actors, but you do get interaction with the heads of all the departments. And when anyone calls the office, then, you're probably one of the first people to pick up. So you get to talk to everybody on the phone and get them where they, I'll switch you to payroll, which is most of the time, most of the calls anyway. But yeah, that was quick, but it got me like, it got me some contacts here, which got me a job up in New York.
Yeah. I also saw you worked on John Wick 3.
Yeah, I sure did. That's one I really, yeah, that's one of those cool ones, that you will always remember as being like, yeah, man, that was worth just being a part of that
Hmm.
set, just seeing how that's made. Because I'm an '80s kid. I grew up on the '80s action movies, like most kids did, I guess. If middle class had a VCR, lived in a neighborhood, you know. Um, and so these are like so high tech and so new and so cool. And ever since the Matrix, it's just gotten digital this and it's just gotten crazy. So it's neat to be on a set like that and see how it's done now. But it does make me like wish I was on like other like older action movie sets
Hmm.
where it might not have been so safe, or it was real, like just real people and real, real running and real all that. But um, but that was super cool. It's just we were up all night. It's uh, that whole opening scene, the whole first 30 minutes of the movie, right? It's that one night in the rain, running from everybody. That took us the whole month of June to shoot. Like just overnights every night for like almost 2 months to shoot all that night stuff and some of the day stuff, like the very end when he gets shot off the building.
Hmm.
Um, but it was a cool experience. The stunt people are very, very good, very, very good at what they do and very professional. And the actors were just super nice. Keanu doesn't really talk to many people when he's on set. Kind of keeps to himself. You know, stays at Village or sits outside. But he's. I mean, I don't think it's anything personal to anyone. It's just he's usually doing all his own stunts, or as many as he can. So he's just always like exhausted. But everyone else was so nice and having a good time. I mean,
Halle Berry.
no, she was never there because they filmed that out in like Morocco, and they don't take it with you.
Uh-oh.
They don't. The heads of the departments, the above the line, the actors, the heads of the departments. Well, the actors it was just Keanu. No one else goes to. They went. They went. They don't take us. Hell no. But we did all the New York stuff. I
Gotcha.
mean, I didn't get to meet Angela Bassett, but not Angela Bassett. Angela Houston, Angelica Houston. Geez, Josh.
Hmm.
I didn't get to meet Angelica Houston, but I was there I was there on set that day, that
Hmm.
night when we filmed. There were so many more dancers and so much more dancing stuff that they shot that they didn't use in that with like the young ballerinas. And that was insane just to have to like babysit them all night. Because it was just everything was overnight shoots. You just become a vampire. But I
Yeah.
didn't get to meet her. I didn't get to meet. I mean, you do the guy nod to Keanu on set, like, what's up, it was cool, just to see like them all work together, was pretty neat. And like all the guests, not guest stars, but like all the I guess guest stars, they're all people as well. And
I'm,
you see in other movies,
I'm interviewing someone. Sorry, I
um,
told them.
that was a no, that was a really cool experience. Yeah, especially like the motorcycles flying through town at night and the public library stuff. It was really cool to just see. And like I was there on the set when the whole hotel, just gets destroyed. Like, the bar and the barbershop area, and when he's just going through all the guys.
Yeah.
I was there. That was pretty neat to see in real time and just how many days it took to get that whole sequence done. And then they blow up the entire bar, and it's not in the theatrical cut of the movie. Like we did it, the last thing we did, like
There's another
hard
cut.
out. Like it was a hard out last night shooting all the fight scenes in the atrium of the hotel there, and they blew the whole bar up, and it was not in the movie. So weird.
Why not?
How could that not be used somehow?
Oh,
It was cool. It was really cool. It was really cool. Oh, what's his name? The hotel manager
uh, trying to think of the
from,
actor's name.
from Deadwood. Why can't I remember it? Anyway, um, he was just so cool. He was super cool, and that was really neat. It was really neat to like when they're that cool. You don't mind being like, oh no, I'll go get you a coffee. You're like, I'll do it. He's like, would you please? Thank you. And you're like, yeah, man, no, I'm going there anyway. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're just
just I've heard things about it. Like one of the fight scenes was like choreographed in VR or something like that.
um the knife stuff. Well, no, not. I don't know if it was the
I
knife
think it was
stuff.
the glass house.
Glass. It was yeah, with the other two guys in the
Hmm.
glass roof or yeah, the glass room. Um, they did that whole like they do it in these big budget movies now a lot. Like they did the previs
Hmm.
where they in what now looks terrible, but 20 years ago looked like amazing. Visual graphics. They'll just create the shots. They'll just make it, and then
Like a blueprint of
yeah,
sorts.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. For that, I think they were like, I mean, they didn't do it there on the set, like the VR stuff. I think they did it in a room where they could, all blue and whatever, and or they had the dots on, and they did all their stuff so that then they could VR match it with the live stuff if it looked like, if they wanted, like if they just wanted more going on because it's not
Yeah.
like it ever look. It's not like you can tell it's a CG guy,
Hmm.
but it's all like just for like quicker movements and more like quicker action that maybe the men of those of their ages couldn't do as quickly. Because those other two guys are like famous martial artists, in movies and stunt. So I
I'm
just don't
trying to
know their names.
remember. I think one of them was Mark Dacascos. I can't
Well,
remember.
he's the director, isn't he? The
Of
guy that
what?
John Wick. No, I forget his
Chad
name.
Stahelski?
Oh, that's Chad Scorsese. Yeah, who used to be Keanu's stunt guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's an interesting guy. But it was cool until they just leave and it's over, and you're like, oh, I got to get back to like normal sleep cycle,
Hmm.
like in the middle of the hot summer in New York. But after that, I started working on Law and Order SVU, which was the complete opposite schedule and pace, and it was so nice to just. It felt like a 9 to 5.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I wouldn't know. Just the last one I could think of that I was like I was wondering how this went. Freaky.
Oh man, I have stories about Freaky. That so I was the background PA on that,
Hmm.
and all my background for the majority of the movie are supposed to be high school teenagers.
Hmm.
So of course they're 18 and plus, in real life, uh, so they can work as adults. But they were, they had to be teenagers, and they were a great crew. They were a great group. A lot of them had to be there like every day. You had like because it's the same kids, it's the same town, and it's like the same couple days of school. So that was it was a lot. It was a lot of people. The the Blumhouse people were great. The producer and um, the APOC, they were so cool. I forget their names at the moment. I mean, it's on IMDb. They were amazing, and then the writer and director were just so cool. Um, they do what do they do, the Happy Death Day movies.
Hmm.
So you take the job because the AD says, they interview you and they say, great, you want to run background, and I'm like, sure. You don't know what the movie is. I mean, you get a little premise, you get like a little one line from your boss. Now it's like, okay, the movie's about this. You're like, okay, sounds fun. was going to be Freaky Friday the 13th.
Mhm.
Was the original name. That's what all of our buttons say. That's what all of our t-shirts say. I guess they couldn't get the rights to Friday the 13th because they were making another one, but Disney didn't mind them using Freaky Friday. So they just went with Freaky. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. But a lot of weird things happened when you name your movie Freaky Friday the 13th and you start shooting like right around Halloween.
Mhm.
Um, we shot at this high school. It was open, but it was only partially full up in Alpharetta, Georgia. Like an agricultural high school, very specifically themed to that. Like once you're a senior or junior, senior, anyway, it's a huge school. And so we shot there, like while they were in school on the other side of the building, we would shoot scenes and stuff. Um, and that was fun. But on the very first day, stunt driver hits one of my background actors, his own personal car. It's parked. He's not in it. It's just parked. And the stunt driver's supposed to wheel out in that parking lot and hit the stunt car maybe and go. And he does it so fast, he whips into our background kid's car. So they got to like get production's got to fix that, and they pay for a rental for him until it's fixed. And that was like on day one. Then this one girl, one of our background actresses, she said she lost her keys when we wrapped everybody, and she lost her keys, and we can't find them. We can't find them. We're looking everywhere. We're saying it on the radio. No one's answering, and she stays with us the whole rest of the time we're there, like another 7 hours. And finally, like her cousin comes to get her. Like he like has like a locksmith guy friend or whatever, to come do it. And we're leaving, and my boss is like, "Wait, I found keys back, on the floor like before lunch. Why don't you say anything?" And I was like, "Dude, I said it on the walkie like 5 times, and I told everyone around me, but I can't leave this place while we're doing this." And he was like, "Oh, I had him the whole time." I was like, "Oh no, this poor girl." And then uh, we had a drug bust go down at the school one day, and it was not production, but it was with production.
Mhm.
Um, but there's real cops there because it's a real school. It's really open. So that was bad. So that was like another whammy. And then the next day we were doing an overnight shoot, and it was so windy, it was so cold. I had all these backgrounds sitting out there. It was felt so bad for them, but they were troopers. But I I talked to one of the assistant locations guys about Monday because we're going to the bowling alley, right? And he's like, not anymore, man. Like he's like, no. So our rigging crew was down there today, and we have security, but they're just like they're not even rent a cops. Like they don't have guns. It's
Mhm.
production security companies, right? Just to keep eyes on things all the time. And so our security officer and one of our crew, I guess they were outside, and these kids were walking by and we're like, "Oh, you making a movie? Making a movie? Let me get in that movie. I want to get in that movie." And then I guess someone responded in a negative way or some kind of demeaning way because one of those kids pulled out a gun and started shooting and shot our security officer.
Dang.
Yeah, and so we can't go film there. That's a crime scene now. Um, she has. I mean, she had to have surgery. It was bad, but she's okay. She made it through. And then we're shooting at this mansion house, and it's like yeah. I guess we were there on Monday, and then we come back Tuesday, and the sound truck had a fire inside it from like the light inside it that fried out or something. And luckily, not much was damaged, but still, things had to be ordered that they needed. And I swear, our poor, UPM and POC were just like, if one more thing happens, we can't finish this movie. And it was just like such a jinx because we were like shooting on Halloween, and it was just so windy and cold that fall into winter here in Georgia that year, man. But it was super fun. The cast were fantastically nice. Vince is hilarious. He's worse than me when it comes to rambling and talking. You gotta straight up just be like, oh, I gotta go, or he'll just keep, or like you're wanted on set. They're calling for me. Yeah, they're calling for you. They're calling for you. You know how we wear like the walkie-talkie
Mhm.
surveillance? Get the surveillance in. You get your little mic hanging somewhere. he'll just be like, so here's me, and here's him, and I'm 5'11", by the way, right? So this is
Hmm.
him talking. Here's me, and he's talking, and I'd sometimes just be like, "Hey, copy that. Be right there. I gotta go." And no one was calling me on the
Yeah.
walkie. I just didn't, like I didn't want to be like caught up in a conversation too long with him in
Mhm.
front of like the producers and the director, and stuff. It makes it look like I'm not working, you know. And also, he likes to get deep, and it's like, dude, this is just like a quick lighting adjustment. We don't have time to get into like,
Yeah.
But he's just that way. He's just very like outward. He's very very like just he's just like a kind of an open book, and he loves talking about history and all kinds of stuff. He was really fun. He was cool. Kate was cool. Uh, the other two were great. They were so nice. Um, and honestly, the director was just so laid back, and the guys, the Blumhouse, however you call it, they just seem like they're having so much fun doing
Mhm.
exactly what they want to do, and it's not rushed. I mean, it's rushed because it's not like all the time in the world, right?
Mhm.
Money and it's not Disney, it's not that kind of stuff, but they have plenty to make movies, and they make some good in my opinion, some not good in my opinion, but it's always in a genre that's so individual. You can like all different types of horror stuff or
Mhm. Yeah.
mystery stuff or weird stuff or space and time travel. It's
Really
not
letting
just
the
sci-fi.
directors do what they want to do.
Right. And you got all these people doing that now, and they'd like to do that with horror, horror comedy, horror. And I think it's great, and it just seems like they're doing what most people envision as like that was what I would want to be doing. Like that's how I want to make films. If you want to be a director, if you want to be a producer, if you want to be like we were such a family for 2 months just shooting this funny comedy, and it was just it was a lot of fun. That's one of the most fun times I've had. I mean, it was stressful,
Hmm.
but it was one of the most fun times I had on a set, and I made a lot of good friends on that set and learned a lot more because New York style is different than Atlanta style as far as the way set kind of works.
Hmm.
Because Atlanta's the LA style, and there's just kind of two styles. That's a whole other story. I'll explain another time. But um, yeah, it was really a great experience. And then one of those awesome experiences when you watch the movie and you're like, oh man, damn, this is good. This is exactly what it said it was going to be, what it wanted to be. And I laughed and I was like, oh right, that's right. We did saw Alan Ruddick in half. That was a fun day. And I worked with him on Succession, the pilot, many years ago. And of course, he didn't remember me, but it was cool. Like, he's on set one of his days, and he asked me like where the bathroom is. I was like, oh, down to the left and whatever. It's like, oh, let me know if they need me. I'm like, oh no, they're still on this. Turn around. He comes back. He's like, miss anything? And I'm like, no, you're good. By the way, congrats on the Emmy nominations and stuff. Succession, I was on the pilot. I was like the fifth PA, and he was like, he gave me that look and then was like, oh yeah, but he didn't remember.
Hmm.
Um, but it was just cool because it's like it's a small world. I mean, he might have at one point, but who cares? That doesn't matter. Like I don't. Kieran Culkin and I got along really well on that pilot. That's something I wish I could have kept like a friendship going with. That would have been cool because we had a blast and it was just like a 9 day pilot shoot, but it was really fun and he was really cool. That was an amazing experience because Adam McKay directed it. So he was there every day. I forget the showrunner writer's name, but now he's the showrunner and always has been. But like he wrote the first episode, Adam directed it. Brian Cox and Alan and Kieran and the really tall young guy. I don't know his name, but they were all so nice, and so that was fun. That was
Hmm.
cool. Brian Cox is just hilarious.
Yeah.
Everything was just talking, walking and talking. So we didn't have to worry about explosions or overnight shoots. It was
Hmm.
just go to different locations in New York, offices, and go to different locations outside of New York and go to different houses upstate. Like up in the burbs where it's all rich and fancy. That was it. It was very simple. Sometimes you like those shows after trucking through the mud for every day for weeks and you know, all the location stuff, sometimes you're like, oh no, yes, Law and Order, SVU. It's the same stage that they've had for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like it's the same law room or the courtroom, it's the same police station, it's the same her office, it's the same, interrogation room, it's the same everything. So they just like turn the lights on and it's like we're ready to shoot. that was a yeah, that was like a nice change. Sometimes you need it because it works you to death, man. It works you really and hard for a limited amount of time. So it's important to balance.
Yeah, just real quick before I get to the end, were there any directors that stood out to you as like better than better to get along with? Like,
There was one director that was he did a couple episodes of Blind Spot. He
mhm,
does a lot of TV shows. I mean, I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. That was so many years ago, and you have a different director every episode. Sometimes you have repeaters, but on all those episodics, it's a different director every 9 days or 8 days, whatever, seven if you're lucky. Whatever. Anyway, this one guy, David, I forget his last name, but he was so cool, and nice and efficient and chill. And it's my second AD was like, yeah, it's because he used to be a PA, like he's my age. He was a PA, did his 600 days, worked his way through all the way up to directing episodic. And he was just really personable and nice. And it's just always nice to see. You don't always get to see it, even if they are personable and nice. It just depends on the day and the work.
mhm,
I mean, I worked on a Woody Allen movie, but it's not like I have any great cool story because he's Woody Allen and he just kind of sits in his tent and does a couple takes and moves on. But
yeah,
you know, he's no man. Early days, short days on that set. They don't work them very long and hard. Um, um, Mark Webb was pretty cool. I did a film. The film didn't do so well, or it wasn't so well noticed. The Only Living Boy in New York. But that was like my first in the city. Like the whole movie is in the city. That was like my first like real city movie in Manhattan, and Jeff Bridges was in it, so that was fucking rad. Pardon my language. And Pierce Bronson was in it, and we were all like, "Dude, who cares about Kate Beckinsale? The dude is in this movie." Um, and it was cool, but Mark was really cool. So many good TV directors that are either so laid back because that's like they know the formula. You know, the best
mhm,
television episodic directors or whatever are the ones that it doesn't matter what shows they've worked on. You know the show, you know the formula. You're not reinventing the wheel because it's not going to make the final cut anyway. They all have a look and a tone and a theme, which is the point. It's like a
mhm,
long movie. So it's cool to see different people's approaches, but the good ones are the ones that like know what to do, not overcomplicate it, and just enjoy the week that they're the director.
mhm.
Because they might not get a directing gig for another month, just like any of us might not get a gig. Excuse me. When the season's over, the movie wraps. You never know. Um, um, I mean, like all the TV stuff, what other movie stuff. I mean, I didn't have much interaction with anyone on John Wick except my ADs. And I'm just trying to think of someone else's like name-ish that was so cool, but I mean, down here, um, Landis, the director for Freaky, was a really, really cool experience. He's John Landis's son. Forget his first name at the moment, but he was really cool about talking about like growing up as like a Hollywood kid, kind of. His
Mhm.
dad was a famous actor, and just like his love affair with horror movies, and just like making jokes. Like he wasn't, he's one of those directors who was like anyone can stand around me at the monitor, you know. And he's like, in fact, the more like if we all chuckle, he's like, we got it, kind of stuff. Like it was very laid back kind of set. Um, and I really appreciated that. I enjoyed that because a lot of the TV stuff gets really like just redundant, it just becomes so repetitive that everyone starts getting cranky and people start just like just getting bored. So they start, getting negative, and it's also it gets so repetitive that you just get used to doing the same thing every day. So you go on a movie and you get different locations and you get that kind of mixes it up, and it's always a little more fun. And it's fun to do these kind of movies here in Atlanta where you're just going through neighborhoods and going out to the woods and then going into the city. Yeah, I mean, I've had bad experiences with some directors, but that's just, me, I guess. I wouldn't, say that they were doing anything wrong or terrible people or, just didn't vibe with them, I guess, or just didn't appreciate their attitude. Um, and then
Well,
just a lot of cool experiences with actors and writers. And like I said, the guest stars, the comedians. And I mean, I got to those are the people that I'm like, dude, you're here for a couple days because you're playing a character on this one episode. That's awesome. We had Bill Nye, the science guy, on Blind Spot. You would think it was like freaking Brad Pitt was on set. All the dudes, all the guys were just like, dude, Bill Nye's here. I gotta get a photo for my daughter, for like my daughter. I'm like, dude, your daughter's my age. Your daughter's like, 40 almost. And he's like, yeah, I know. We watched it when she was a kid. I gotta get a photo. And I'm like, oh, that's cute. Like all the guys. And he was just like having a blast. Um, Violent experiences like that, working on the episodics, those are always my favorites when it comes to TV because it just makes the day different and fun. And, you have fun conversations. They're all just people. Treat everybody nice. You get treated nice. And if not,
well,
you call HR.
yeah. Well, last thing I wanted to ask you, upcoming movie you've worked on, Family Plan. What can you tell us about that?
I believe it's called The Family Plan. I believe that's the name now officially stamped. It's going to be an action comedy type adventure with Mark Wahlberg and what was that other woman's name?
Michelle Monaghan?
Yes, Michelle Monaghan. I think they're the two leads. I mean, I'm not going to give a. You want me to tell you what the premise is, or just I was in
No,
locations
no.
on that. I don't want to, no, not to spoil anything. I mean, the trailer will do that.
Okay.
It's pretty simple, straightforward, I think, but
I look forward
it's a
to
lot.
it.
It's got a lot of action, yeah, yeah, but it's got a lot more action. I thought it was going to be a more comedic movie, but um, working on the streets and working on our stunts, I was like, okay, no, this is a stunt heavy movie. So I was in the locations department on that, which we were really busy because we had a lot of streets to block off. We had a lot of ITC people to work with, and then the cops of Atlanta to shut it down. We shut down. If you've never been to Atlanta, never drive on I-75 north or south in the heart of Atlanta in Midtown ever if you can if you can get around it, but especially not like in the afternoon, like late afternoon. It's just awful. But we did an overnight to finish our stunt work there, and we shut the whole thing down, which was just I've never seen that. That was crazy. Shut the whole highway down so we could have an e-bike and this crazy like I don't even know like the the they're calling it the U crane. The crane on top of that like sweet beamer that can go like 360 and all the way around. And then
Mhm.
this like cool little electric bike with like with a 360 array on top of it. And
Yeah.
then always do 10 motorcycles and cars just zipping around and then come back around, do it again and again. That was pretty cool. And then the stunt stuff we did here in Atlanta, um, when you see the movie, it's in the like rundown Vegas casino lobby.
Mhm.
That was all, not all of it, but a lot of that was, most of that was done here. The stunts were all done here, and then they flew out to Vegas to do, exteriors and all that stuff. But yeah, that was a trip to see some of the stunts. So, I mean, it's like, they're like, it's like Jason Bourne meets a comedy. They're like, assassin fighting in a grocery store, in like some small town and everything's exploding. It's going to be fun, I think.
Well,
Sometimes you need those fun kind of movies, you know?
mhm. Well, it was nice talking to you. Very nice to
You
know
as
you.
well.
Um, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Um, well, and uh, I've been the movie reviewer next door, and see you guys later.
All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.